For today's top stories, let's go over to the CBN News Desk.
Gordon, Egypt is bracing for a showdown. President Morsi remains defiant and says he will not step down. He rejected the call of millions of Egyptians who have taken to the streets demanding he resign. And he's defying the army's ultimatum that he obey the wishes of the people. Chris Mitchell has that story.
Morsi told Egyptians he won't step down because he wants to protect the revolution.
How can we protect a revolution from being stolen? I'll tell you. The revolution of the 25th of January and its goals, protecting its legitimacy. The price for this is my life because I want to protect your lives.
Morsi also demanded the army withdraw their ultimatum.
No one has the authority to intervene in the Constitution, either by what they say or by force.
Morsi's reaction angered many in the streets.
He didn't respect anyone who's here and in other squares. He came out with a speech to provoke us, not to calm us. He is threatening us, but I'm sending him a message from here. Egyptians will never be scared.
Many vowed to stay.
The president was targeting his followers and his Muslim Brotherhood in his speech. He is ruling in their favor, and he does not consider the rest of the people. We'll remain in the square unless he steps down.
Yet at this pro-Morsi demonstration, some chanted they would defend Islam with their blood. Morsi's decision sets the stage for a major confrontation between his supporters and those who want him to resign. Already more than 20 have died and more than 200 injured in fighting between the two opposing groups.
We will protest here until we achieve a solution, and we want the president to do something to prevent any bloodshed which could happen. God willing, he should step down.
The army announced it will go ahead with its roadmap when its deadline expires. Without a political solution, Egypt remains a country divided, and many fear on the verge of a civil war. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
And back in this country, businesses will have an extra year to comply with a key element of Obamacare. The Obama administration says large and medium-sized companies will not face penalties if they do not provide coverage for their full-time employees. Those penalties were supposed to start January 1st of next year, but they've been delayed now until the beginning of 2015. That's after the congressional elections. Pro-business groups were happy about the unexpected delay. They had complained that the insurance requirement is just too complicated. Republicans say the delay is more evidence that the health care law is unworkable. They say it should be repealed and replaced with simpler reforms. The Texas abortion showdown is ramping up again after Governor Rick Perry called a second special legislative session. Color-coordinated protesters gathered Tuesday outside the state capitol building in Austin. Blue for pro-life, orange for pro-choice. Inside, thousands of people waited to speak their minds. Ephraim Graham has that story.
Debate over Texas's attempt to change its abortion law ran well into the night. More than 2,000 citizens signed up to speak, but fewer than 300 were actually able to do so before the midnight deadline.
As a fifth-generation Texan,
your political effort to mobilize.
She gave me a lot of advice that I wasn't looking for.
The initial House bill failed after Democrat Senator Wendy Davis filibustered for nearly 10 hours, and then unruly protesters continued to run out the clock.
But I don't believe that you take that filibuster and coordinate it with the mob.
Governor Rick Perry called a special session so lawmakers could take up the measure again. If it passes, the bill would ban most abortions after 20 weeks of pregnancy, citing the belief that unborn babies can feel pain by that stage. The measure would also require abortion clinics and abortion doctors to comply with the same standards as the rest of the medical field.
It supports safety, the health and safety of a woman who does choose to have an abortion. We're just asking that the facilities come up to the same standards as any other outpatient facility.
Critics say the bill would shut down most of the abortion clinics in Texas.
We think it's bad for the state of Texas to be waging this kind of fight against the women of this state, but we will fight it.
Still, others say the mood this time around is much more civil.
It's really good to see citizen input from all segments of Texas, as far as I can tell, and both sides represented.
It's been very, very cordial. Everyone has been very respectful. You know, if we've had conversations with people who we oppose, it's very nice, calm conversations.
Tuesday's hearing was meant to take note of public testimony. At the end of the night, the bill cleared the committee with an 8-3 vote. Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
And we're told that the full Texas State House will vote on the bill next week. The U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission is giving Americans tips on how to stay safe during the 4th of July celebrations. The agency held fireworks safety demonstrations on the grounds of the National Mall in D.C. Data shows that 60% of all fireworks injuries occur around this time. The commission's chairman says it's important to know which fireworks are safe.
Consumers should only use consumer fireworks, never use professional, illegal, or homemade fireworks. If you're going to use consumer fireworks, follow these simple steps. Have a dry, flat surface, always have a water hose available, never bend over a firework when you light it, and never pick up a dud.
Last year, more than 5,000 people were treated in emergency rooms around the country. Leaders of religious groups representing more than 100 million Americans have written a letter of protest about the contraception mandate in Obamacare. They say the government should not force religious institutions or business owners to provide employees with insurance coverage that could include birth control, drugs that induce abortion, and sterilization. The letter urges the Department of Health and Human Services to exempt anyone who has religious or moral objections to the plan. Reverend Russell Moore of the Southern Baptist says a proposed HHS compromise is just word games and accounting tricks, he says, with no exemptions for business owners. Tax deductions for charitable giving may be on the chopping block. Top Senate Finance Committee members Max Baucus and Orrin Hatch are proposing a, quote, blank slate approach to tax reform. It would wipe the tax code clean and start over. The president of the Evangelical Council for Financial Accountability, Dan Busby, says he's concerned about the proposal. He says the charitable deduction is an effective way to encourage individual giving. You can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com 24/7.